Hey everybody, Mike here. Welcome to the channel. Well, as you can see in the description of this video, we're going to be talking about render farms today. What render farms are, why you should use one, and what the benefits are for your business. Now, if you are a freelance 3D artist, then you know that time is money, right? I mean, you work very hard to become a 3D animator and you want to stay one. So for that reason, you need to be productive and you need to be efficient with your resources. Now, a render farm will help you to lower your investments as far as hardware is concerned and will free up your earning potential. And if you are responsible for a studio, even more so. So in this video, we're going to be covering a couple of things. We're going to be talking about why you should use a render farm, what the benefits are, and my render farm of choice. And that's a render farm that I've been with for many, many years, right? So if this is your thing, check it out and let's dive in. Here we go. Alrighty, well, let's start with the elephant in the room, and that would be the cost, right? If nothing else, the cost of hardware can be a huge obstacle. If you are considering doing your own animations and rendering them, and you do that on a regular basis, then you are looking at a hefty price tag. Yeah, good graphics cards are very, very expensive. Now you could say, well, I use my CPU for rendering, but you know as well as I do that CPU and GPU go hand in hand, right? Now, to give you an idea, here's an NVIDIA RTX 6000, and that's one of the cards that I have. And yeah, it scared the bejesus out of me when I had to dig deep to pay for it, right? But nevertheless, that is of course one of the major issues. Now, even if you have the money to get hardware like this, did you do that out of pocket, or do you have a business as a freelance artist, and did you have to get a loan? Because if you did get a loan, that is something that you have to pay interest over, right? And that's assuming that you get a loan, which is already an issue. A lot of freelance artists won't be able to get a loan because apparently banks think that that's a risky occupation. And yeah, then we're looking at borrowing money from family and whatnot. And yeah, good luck with that, right? Alrighty, so let's say that's all covered. You got the money regardless where you got it from, right? Do you have a backup plan if the hardware dies on you for whatever reason, right? Can you go out and get a new one? I mean, yeah, you can say, well, that never happened. Well, yeah, I know, it never happens until it does, okay? So, are you willing and able to replace the hardware every few years? Now, you can be all happy with your RTX 6000, but 4 years from now, there's the new and improved and the better and yeah, that might be a thing, because if you want to stay on top of your game, you have to be up to date with your hardware, right? So, what else? Does your insurance cover a full replacement value in case of theft, fire, and whatnot? And yeah, most insurance companies will reimburse you to an extent, right? But usually there's the write-off, even if the card is still good. Hey, it's a year old, it's 2 years old, and that value drops dramatically. And then you end up with an amount that will not cover the cost of the new investment, right? So these are a couple of financial arguments, I would say. All right, moving on. Okay, so let's say you're convinced and you say, sure, okay, I'll try out a render farm. Now, what are the benefits? Well, obviously, it's going to address a lot of the things that I just mentioned, right? As far as the investments are concerned in the hardware, as far as the risks of owning that expensive hardware, and so on. But for me, the most critical benefits are earning potential and more time to work on clients and to work on prospects. So, in other words, get new clients, right? I don't have to worry about all this stuff. I can do what I need to do, which is my job, right? And everything else should be taken care of. So, yeah, that's my argument why I use render farms. And that brings me to the next topic, which is okay, so there are many render farms out there. why are you and have you been using Rebusfarm, right? Now, I have been using Rebusfarm for years, as I mentioned in the intro, and I suggest we dive into their website so I can talk you through it and show you why I made that choice, right? Here we go. So, welcome to the Rebusfarm website, rebusfarm.net, and this is actually the new and improved. It has a complete makeover, and it's, I would say, even more intuitive. I expected when I started working with a RenderFarm that it would be highly complicated, and it isn't, which is nice, right? Okay, so let's go through the website. What have we got going on? We're going to start with Let's Go. So let's say you are a first-time user. What you want to do is check out the quick start guide. You want to download the software, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then you have the team manager. So quick start guide is what you think it is. It tells you how to get up and running as quick as possible. Download software. When you download the software, it will download an app that will be running on your system overview down here. So you click on the little arrow, you'll see an icon, and that is the app provided by Rebusfarm, and that helps you to see what's going on as far as your number of render points, how many jobs have been finished, how many are running, queued, and whatnot, right? Now, this is the app running on a second account that I set up, so you're not seeing any jobs or points, but we'll get to that in a minute, right? Okay, so this is where you would download that software, and then here you have the team manager. Now, the team manager is very powerful because if you're working in a team, let's say in remote locations, multiple people working on the same project, then you can see what's going on, what person is doing what, what is their progress and that kind of thing. Yeah. All right. What next? 3D software. There is a lot of software and there are a lot of renderers that are covered by Rebusfarm. If I click on this, you'll see that all the major players are represented, right? And when I say all, I mean all, at least anything I ever use, right? And the cool thing is, as you know, I'm a Maya user. If I go and click on Maya, I will get an overview, and it seems that you get $26 worth of render points if you sign up. Nice, didn't even know that. Anyway, it tells you about the Maya RenderFarm software, and you can download the software, which will help you to send directly out of Maya, right? And it's all the way up to date, up to Maya 2024. So you can work straight from there. What type of render engines are supported? Arnold, that's what I use. Mental Ray, if you have an older version of Maya. Maxwell, Redshift, Octane, V-Ray, V-Ray Advanced. Very nice, right? And then also plugins. So if you have any of these plugins, I use, for example, Ornatrix, Phoenix FX. Those two, and I've played with Fume FX a little bit. That's included as well. Whole bunch of stuff covered, right? And then you got a lot of information that you can read up on, and it looks like they got a bunch of tutorials as well, so it's all good. Now, if you're not working in Maya, but let's say any of these other software types, you will have a similar overview, okay? So you can go and check that out. Now, let's jump back. So we talked about 3D software. Now, pricing. Pricing, discounts, calculate cost, and unlimited render rental. How does that work? Well, pricing and discounts is what you think it is, right? It gives you an overview, depending on whether you are choosing CPU or GPU rendering, what the average cost would be, right? And you can set it up that way. There's also a cost calculator. So if you have a project and you know the number of frames you have, they'll typically have you do a quick test, let's say on a couple of frames, and based on that they will calculate your project cost, right? And they will say, okay, the entire render will cost you an X amount of render points. Now, render points is the currency used by Rebusfarm. You can basically buy render points and store them in your online wallet, so you always know exactly how many you still have left, and you don't have to, be paying every time you do something, right? I, for example, always have a couple of hundred of render points available, and when I want to render something, I can just access that and do just that, right? And what is really cool here is unlimited render rental. Now, I'll show you what that is. What you can do is based on the server you have, right? You can choose, let's see, yeah. So based on the server you have, you can choose the server type, and then based on the server type, you can say, okay, for the next 7 days, or for the next 28 days, or for the next whatever, I want to have an unlimited amount of renders available to me. And you will pay a fixed amount for that, right? Now, I would say that is for the big boys, right? You can see some serious pricing. If you want to render online 28 days and you got, I think this is the number of servers, not sure. Anyway, $131,000. So that's way, way out of my ballpark, right? But nevertheless, they have it, and that's cool. All right, let's see what else. So I talked about the render points. I talked about the calculator. I talked about this right here. Support. Well, first of all, they're in multiple time zones, and they also have this chat available here 24/7. And of course, they also communicate in English. So if you ever have any issues, you can dive in, get some help, and get going. And also, there are a lot of tutorials available. How you install, how you set up, how you submit a job out of Maya, and so on. News. If there's anything new that they want to mention, they'll put it here. The community. Couple of cool things here. They run challenges all the time, and they have the election of the 3D Artist of the Month, 3D Artist of the Year. If you're into that kind of thing, it can get you great exposure for your work, because a lot of people use RenderFarm, Rebusfarm, sorry, and yeah, that might just get you some new clients, right? My Rebus overview of your control center, payments, if you want to do an unlimited render deal, render jobs that have been running, support tickets, and I never logged one because I never had an issue, so that's pretty neat, right? Okay, so let's see, what else? We talked about this, we talked about this, that's covered, and that is all covered, right? Okay, so what about the software setup down here? How do you do that, right? And I'm talking about this guy. Very, very simple. You go up to Let's Go, you click on Download Software, right? And yeah, you can do that. You can set up a free account, and I already have an account. You can download the software. I already did that. You can upload render jobs, you can manage your jobs, and all of that stuff. Now, what I want to do in this scenario is I want to install the Maya software so I can work directly out of Maya, right? So for that, as we've seen, I'm going to go to 3D software. I'm going to go to Maya. And I believe there are actually people that call this Maya. I always call it Maya, I don't know. And we're going to click on download software, right? Now, for the purpose of this video, I uninstalled my software so we can download it and work with it, right? Let's see, is this the one that I wanted? Let's just make sure. Yeah, that's the one I want, right? Okay, so download software. We're going to click on download for Windows. It's going to go up there, Rebus drop, right? And I'm just going to install that off screen because it's nothing special, and I don't want to get a conflict with my app that I already have installed, right? Okay, so I installed the software, and it's called Rebus Drop, by the way. And if I now click on this guy, I'll see the icon right here, and then I can right click on it and I can go to login, right? Now, I'm not going to use my test account. I'm going to use my normal accounts. And all right, so I installed the Rebus Drop software, and yeah, that's very, very easy. Just download and run it, right? And then what you do is you go down here, you click on the little arrow, you go to the icon, you right click on it, and you click on login, right? I'm already logged in, so because I am now logged in, I can go here, and if I click on this, you can see that I got 119.98 render points available. No jobs running at this time, but that's fine. And now I'm in my control center, and you can do that from here as well. You can go here, click on it, right click, and go to open control center, right? I did that, so that will bring us here. Now, if I go to my dashboard, actually here's my overview of what I got in render points. If I go to my dashboard, I'll see an overview and a couple of updates here of what's going on. Let's see if there's anything here new that I need to know of. Okay, we're all good. Here's your actual control center. Here's where you can upload your render batch, the one that you want to run. Then here you can buy render points. Here you have the unlimited render offer, and that is where you select the server and then you select the period you want to cover where you can render as much as you want. And this might be interesting if you are, for example, in the entertainment industry and you need to render a movie or whatnot, right? If you rent it for 28 days, you can then literally 28 days straight run your animation, okay? Run your batch. Job history, I'm not going to show that because it contains client names, my client names, support tickets, I don't have any, never had an issue. Edit profile, that's my personal data. Invoices is what it says, invoices, and then team manager. Now under team manager, you can create a team. So let's say you have a project and you got a number of people working on that project. Well, then you would set up a team for that team, right? And that will allow you to have an overview of what they are doing, what their progress is, and so forth. Yeah. So now it's time to create some kind of simulation / animation in Maya, and we're going to run it on Rebusfarm. Okay, let's jump into Maya.
Maya and Rebusfarm. Our Rebusfarm software is directly integrated into Maya. You can open the Rebus setup window via the menu Rebusfarm or the buttons in the shelf menu. Before submitting your render job, you should have finalized all settings in the render setup. The settings will be adopted by our RenderFarm. Via the Rebus setup, you have access to all important functions for the upload. Priority in the queue, auto-starting the render process. Layers. If you have activated this function, multiple sub-render jobs are generated for multiple cameras, from just one scene with just one upload. Cost calculator. A rough cost estimation with our cost calculator, based on your own render parameters and your own PC. Render cost estimation. A more accurate cost estimation. It requires a partial rendering. The estimated costs will be displayed in the control center and you will receive them by email. We recommend to always use the render cost estimation before sending the entire render job to the farm. This is also for you to check if those first frames rendered correctly. Email notifications, if you want to be notified by email. Your scene will be checked before sending. You can do a quick check at any time to see if your scene can be sent to the farm. Infos, warnings, and errors are displayed in the Rebusfarm messages window. If everything is okay, you can send your render job. Now Rebusdrop uploads all required data automatically. Pre-upload before the final submission saves up to 90% upload time. In the control center, you can control and monitor all processes. After the upload, your render job starts automatically if you have selected the auto start function. Otherwise, you can start the render process manually in the control center later on. You can also follow the rendering process itself in the control center. Finished frames are displayed in the preview area and downloaded to the target folder by the Rebus drop. In the control center, you can also change the download settings, such as priority and destination folder. With the resubmit function, you can start a copy of a render job with different settings without uploading the data again. Each new customer receives render points for free when creating a customer account. Just try it out. Do you have further questions? Our FAQ provides you with further answers. Our support team is also at your disposal.
All right, well, we're in May 2024. As you can see, I set up a very simple animation. I got a floor, ground plane, I got a cube, I have a camera set up, camera 1. I have a light set up, which is a directional light. And if I hit 7 on my keyboard to activate that light, you can see that it's been activated. Here it is. And yeah, it's now time to set up our render settings. Now, it's important to set up your render settings, obviously, before you hit render. So we're going to do that, right? So I'm going to go up to render settings here. And what I'm going to do is run through my settings. Now, first of all, if we go to the comment tab, I call this moving cube, just to keep things simple, right? Now you have the option to choose what type of extension you want as far as your files are concerned. Now, what I want to do is I want to compile my animation myself. So I'm going to go with individual JPEG files, right? Now, what do I want other than that? I want 100% quality. This I'm going to leave alone. Color space, leave that alone. This right here, frame/animation extension. What I want is the name, then dot, and then hashtag, and then dot, and then JPEG. So what this would look like, and actually I don't want a point, I want this one right here. What this would look like would be moving cube 1.jpg, moving cube 2.jpg, and so forth. Yeah. Right. Let's see. Other than that, I want frame 1 to frame 20. I want to do each frame. Leave that alone. I made camera 1, so that's the one I want to use. I'm going to go with HD 1080 setup as far as resolution is concerned. Height, width, and so forth. Resolution 72. 72 DPI. Let's see what else. That's all good. This I'm all going to leave alone. This as well, CPU, that's what I want to render with, right? So we'll leave that alone, and yeah, there you have it. Okay, so that's all good. If we switch here to our camera 1 and we look through it, and I think that's exactly what we're doing right now, right? Yeah, it is. And we hit play, we'll get something like this. Like I said, nothing fancy, right? Okay, so I got my render settings. What's next? Well, I'm going to go up to Rebusfarm and I'm going to do a quick check to make sure I didn't make any mistakes or any of my settings are wrong, right? So I'm going to click on that and it says info, no errors. Great. Okay. Then what's next? Well, our render setup will be adopted based on what I already set up, so that's good. What I can do is a cost calculator if I like, yeah? So I want to know what would this cost me roughly. Now when I click on that, it's going to go to this page right here, and it's going to ask me what do I want. Well, I selected that I want to do a CPU rendering. I'm working in Maya. Where'd you go? My, right here. The renderer, I'm just going to select mental rate, doesn't matter that much. It's pretty much the same output here. It's an animation, I got 20 frames, CPU type. Okay, now I don't have a very fancy CPU, so that's all good. But anyway, the calculation here literally says that it's super cheap, okay? Like 22 cents to render this, right? Now, and again, it all depends on your setup, but I'm convinced and I'm not concerned, this is not going to be a very expensive render. All right, so let's go back to Maya, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my rendering menu. So if you're not there yet, go to rendering. We're going to go to render, and what I want is to do a render sequence because it's an animation, right? So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to select camera 1. That's the one I want. I'm going to leave all of this alone, and instead of render sequence and close, I'm just going to close this because I want it to be rendered by Rebusfarm, right? So now I'm going to go back to Rebusfarm, and I'm going to go and click on render now. Now when I do that, it's going to do a check again, all still okay, and I'm going to send it to Rebus. And that usually takes a minute or so to get started. That's what it says, starting soon. This is based on available space on servers, it's based on pre-checks, it's based on stuff like that. But I usually just click on run and then leave it. And you can set up that you want to be notified once it's done. I didn't do that actually in Maya, but you can. You can get an email once it starts, and you can get an email once it's finished. Now, if I want a very accurate calculation of cost, then what I would typically do is I would load up a few images to test render, right? And in that way, the calculation is more precise. But I know that this is not going to be $100 render, so I'm okay with a rough estimate, right? And if it's, I would say if it's below $1, hey, great, right? There you go. So 20 out of 20 frames done. The total cost 0.23 render points, which equals 0.23 euros, which is roughly 23 cents. Yeah. So it's all good. It's done, as you can see, and I can open download if I want. And if I do so, I will see all the stills that I set up right here. And then I can go in, compile them, and turn them into an animation, right? So yeah, that's how that works. What's left, I would say, is my summary, right? And yeah, my summary for my situation, I would say for sure, is that it is way, way more efficient and cost effective for me to do animations through Rebusfarm when they are time consuming. So yeah, my summary is that it works out for me perfectly, and if it is something that you like to work with, then consider Rebusfarm, right? I've been with them many, many years. I always enjoy their service, and yeah, I think they're worth your business, so consider that. Right, that's it for me. That's it for this video. See you guys in the next one. Bye.